And as empowered beings, we have got to come to a place where we really love all aspects of ourselves. And we know we are transcending this reality that we're in with different parts of us. So loving every part of us is so key because there's not just the one part of us. This is the ego, the physical ego self I'm speaking about. The physical ego self is really divided into so many parts. Apart from the fact that we've got our higher self and the physical ego self, that physical ego self has so many identities and physical beings that we have come, we really have to come to love. And I really wanted us to explore this self love from that dimension, from that perspective of it having many identities, many, many personalities, so that we can come to embrace ourselves, embrace all parts of self. So I'm really passionate about this, and I'm really pleased that I'm going to be discussing this with Moumita, who is someone who channels multidimensional beings as well as understanding our own physical ego being.
So, knowing that there are many parts in us and there are many parts which are wounded, especially due to childhood traumas or because past life experiences or sometimes ancestral lineage. So, our traumas are not just always our own. There are, I can refer 10 other books which also talks about traumas from ancestral lineage as well as the past life. So, no matter what the source of trauma is, the the key thing to understand here is to find out which part is wounded and which part is creating the problem.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Daily Soul Bytes show. I am your host, bolaabimbolaauthor, and this is the show where we interview expert coaches, entrepreneurs, and authors to share their insights for the expansion of collective consciousness. And today I have my guest, my very special guest, Moumita Paul from India. Hi, Moumita.
Hi, Bola. How are you?
I'm very well. It's really nice to connect after so long. After so
I
long.
know.
And I'll read a bit about Moumita before we start. Moumita has a self-healing blueprint, which is a simple yet powerful healing modality that creates fast relief where traditional medicine has failed to work. Her work is grounded in real-life applications where it has proven its effectiveness in reducing the severity of chronic problems by 50% within the first two sessions. With her channeling, transmissions, and the unique healing modality, she assists people in healing their minds, bodies, and soul. That is so powerful. Thank you, Moumita. So tell us, Moumita, what is your self-healing blueprint about, and how does it really encompass self-love?
So, the self healing blueprint is about finding what is causing the root cause of one's illness, which is mostly rooted in our mental and emotional makeup, and then giving self love to it to heal it. So, this is something so simple and yet so powerful that when I first created it, I was literally feeling like, why don't people know about this sooner or earlier? Like, I have read stories about people healing their cancers by simply forgiveness and releasing the resentment. So, it always made me wonder, like, what exactly are they doing? So, I'll give you a little bit of my own background about this journey to give you some idea why I actually started it and where it started. So I used to have a severe back pain, like a lower back pain due to spondylitis. And I was taking the medication, the treatment, the physiotherapy, the ointments, the hot water bath, like whatever the doctors had prescribed. And it just didn't go away. Like, I mean, I was doing the treatment for, I mean, at least few months, and the pain just comes and goes. So I also did some energy healing because I'm a pranic healer. And though it was giving me relief temporarily, but the pain was back. So I got very angry and frustrated. I was like, what is going on? I'm doing everything in my power to heal myself and nothing is working. What is going on? So I almost stopped all medication. I would just take the hot waters and the physiotherapy because that's the only thing that seemed to work. And during that time, I was also working a lot on my personal development because that is my favorite thing to do. Most of the time, I
Me
know
too.
all the things, all the things, all the challenges of our life can be solved by that one thing. So during that time, I came across different authors like Lewis Hay and Carl Dawson's book, like Matrix Reimprinting, where he uses EFT to heal different parts of us, and Dr. Gay Hendricks' books on learning to love oneself. And once I started doing these things, I realized that there is something common between these three things that these three people are talking about. So it was all about discovery and experimentation. And that is how I came to create this specific structure, this specific process of finding exactly which emotion and which um, thoughts are creating the illness in the body, and then using self love to heal it. So, this concept is not new. This has been talked about various scientists and authors, like Louise Hay in her book Heal Your Body. Then, legendary Dolores Cannon's daughter, Julia Cannon, wrote a book on it called Soul Speaks. Then there is Evett Rose, who wrote Metaphysical Anatomy. So there are even scientific bodies of research, which I'm not able to recall right now the name of the authors and scientists, who have studied this mind-body connection, and like has given us enough information about that. So this is like the whole gist. Do you want me to talk about how to do the steps right now, or do you want to?
Yes, please. Yes, please. The actual steps when we start from a place. First of all, thank you, Moumita. Thank you for sharing that journey with us. Because we all get to this place where we become experts in something because of that experience of lacking that very thing. So thank you for that. But I really wanted us to, provide that information for those who are at this place where there is some conflict, there is some resistance within to really coming to accept and surrender to love, to loving that part of themselves, or those parts of themselves, or all parts of themselves, or the concept of parts. There's so many dimensions, there's so many aspects to this. And I wanted to hear your perspective on how you support your clients with that perception, gaining that understanding, accepting that understanding, and practicing it, living it, walking as empowered beings, loving all parts of themselves. So, how do you support your clients in exploring and living as empowered beings, loving themselves?
Um, if I take an example of my client who was going through a lot of leg pain. So when I was working through her and I asked her questions about the parts that are in conflict, which I'm going to cover exactly how to find out in some time. So we found out that there are many parts in conflict, but I'm just speaking two for brevity. So one of her parts were like really wanting to be loyal to her family. At the same time, her family has done certain things that is against her moral values and has hurt her in different ways, which is in conflict with her value system, her integrity. So these are the two parts which were in conflict with each other. One is loyalty and one is her own integrity. Like, should she be loyal or should she prioritize her own well being? So, this conflict was creating a lot of guilt, shame, and this conflict was creating a lot of pain in her left leg. So, when we started doing the parts work, we started identifying which part needs the love and then started giving love to that. And she experienced the reduction in her pain and healing at the same time instantly. This is the beauty of this modality. Like, you will experience the healing immediately. And unlike other healing modalities where, the pain comes back or the healing is like, you know, what's the right word? Like, it's like it has to be given in doses and only then it goes down. It's not like that. If it is healed, whatever portion you manage to heal is healed. It will take some sessions because there's a lot of conflict that happens. It's not that simple.
Mm,
But whatever amount of healing is happening, it really heals that ever whatever that portion is.
mm,
So given this foundation, so how do you find which part is ailing or which parts are in conflict? So there are many ways to do it. I'm going to talk about one simple one, which is tapping, EFT tapping. So this specific point, which is known as the karate chop point, is connected to the small intestine meridian, and this is more or less connected to the rest of the body consciousness. Like, as you know, these parts are part of our mind and our consciousness. So when we tap and we ask, like, what is the root cause of this illness, whatever that specific illness is, you have to be specific about that. So we work on one thing at a time. So if a person has 10 problems, we are going to pick one and work on only that. This is how it works. So you tap the karate chop point gently with two fingers, three fingers, and ask the question, what is the root cause of this illness or whatever? And then wait for the answer to come. And most people who are disconnected from their body or are intellectualizing their feelings instead of actually feeling it in the body, initially they may face some resistance or problem from their protector parts who don't want them to feel the feelings, or there could be some resistance to this process. So there are certain ways that you can overcome the resistance. I'll come to that later. So you get the answer. The answer could come in different ways. It could come as a sensation. It could come as a voice in your head. The answer could also come as a image or a feeling, or it could present itself in any way. So for each person, the journey is different. It's never the same. So the point is to be open to whatever way the body wants to communicate. Listen to the body consciousness and accept the answer.
mm,
And how do you know that whether the answer that you received is the correct one? So the next step is the healing, which is applying the self-love. So the moment, say, the part answers that, okay, it is guilt or it is shame or it is
mm,
fear or it is anger about a specific thing, when
mm,
you receive that answer, no matter how surprising the answer is, accept it and then ask which part of me, which is responsible in creating this problem, this illness, needs my love. So
mm,
the reason why I created this specific question instead of directly going and healing that part that came up immediately is to reduce resistance. Now, because the problem is caused by two parts conflict, sometimes if you're directly trying to love one part, the other part will say, no, I will not allow that to happen. That is quite possible. So it's always good to ask for permission, which part of me, which is creating this problem, needs my love, and the answer will come again. And then you just use affirmations like, I love and accept that part of me. I love and accept that part of me. I love and accept that part of me. I love and accept that part of me in a loop. And the moment you start saying it, you will notice the pain, the discomfort, the symptoms are instantly going down. Instant. The result is instantaneous. And the process is much longer. I'm going to make it shorter. So this is like once you find a specific part creating a problem, there are more parts that are responsible for that. So you will notice that when the pain or the discomfort is going down, after a point, it reaches a plateau and it doesn't go down any further than that. That's when you know that whatever or how much ever love this part needed is done. Now it's time to address another part that needs love. So you ask that same question again, which other part, which is responsible for creating this problem, needs my love? And then you'll get an answer. And then you repeat the loving affirmation to that part now.
mm,
And in this way, you keep repeating and repeating and repeating and finding that part, loving that part, finding another part, loving that part. And it will surprise you as to the number of parts that is creating the problem. And eventually, when you reach till the end, the way to know that you have fully healed is the problem will completely go away, the symptoms will completely go away. Now, this may not happen in one day and in one sitting. This may take many sittings because it depends from person to person and how chronic or severe the problem is. So this is like the basic steps, and there are many other things around it. But given our call today, I think this should suffice for now.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Moumita, because this is something that I have not really heard addressed in the way that I have come to understand it. The number of times we need to delve into loving and accepting different parts of us for our healing. Because we're mind, body, spirit. And it's interesting how the beliefs that we hold, the thoughts that different parts of us hold, can conflict with each other and cause pain in the body. So it's that energy, moving, emotions, energy movements. So everything is energy. And I know I love talking to you about this because I know you are an energy practitioner as well. That energy that is moving from our thoughts becomes, moves into the body and actually becomes a particular matter. And that matter can be light or dense. And when it's dense, it causes pain. And the only thing that I've known that really comes to help us release that pain is love. And that pain is caused by the conflict between so many different parts. There is the inner part, inner child. There is the parent. There is the ancestral. There's so many different parts of us and our identities. There may be beliefs that I hold as a parent which conflict with my belief as a coach. There may be beliefs that I hold as a coach which conflict with my beliefs as a woman or as an entrepreneur. And we find ourselves coming to a place where we are needing to understand these beliefs that are in conflict. And I love what you said about just saying those affirmations in loops, because they work. They reframe the limiting thoughts. And one of the most fundamental things that I have found that really help us to come to release the pain is to stop the the self-criticizing, because that is something that I did not realize how much I criticized myself at one point. And even if that's the only thing we do on a day-to-day, to just stop criticizing self. Whenever anything comes up and I'm telling myself off or I'm putting myself down, to stop and reframe it.
Exactly.
Say the opposite. And that is something that I found really fundamental. And those sentences that you have said, those affirmations, I love myself. I love and give myself permission to release this, to accept myself. Those sentences are key. They become like magic. They become like magic. And we really come to realize mind over matter. There is such a powerful transformation that takes place when we understand how our mind controls the body. In that this is all about the physical ego self. And at one point, we will come to realize that those loving perspectives are coming from our higher mind. The higher mind allows us to understand more. We discover that self. There's a discovery of the physical ego self and discovery of the higher self. And we can come to allow ourselves to dwell more in the perspectives of the higher self. And that is exactly what you have explained, that we start off really coming to really understand the perspectives of the physical ego self. That's the physical ego self is not about love, it's about survival. It's about competition,
So
isn't
this
it?
is where, so the primary objective of the physical ego is the body's survival.
Yes,
So all the parts that you have or anybody has, all the parts have the same highest intention, which is the survival of the body. The
yeah,
only problem happens is when some of those parts are wounded while some of them are not. And it's the mind's mechanism of holding the pain in one part so that the rest do not have to suffer the same pain. And in
yes,
this process, we suppress those wounded parts, we avoid the pain, we forget them, we push them away so that it's a natural defense mechanism of the mind to preserve the body.
Yeah.
So the ego is not technically our enemy, and it gets a very bad rap in the spiritual
Yeah.
community, but it's exactly a protector part which is trying to protect us. So even the part that criticizes us and we feel we are criticizing ourselves, those are protector parts who are perfectionist part, who want you to do better. And the only way they know that you can do better is criticism, because that's what our parents have taught us.
Yeah.
So it is like a new way of unlearning and loving those parts, that it is okay to make mistakes. I would still love and accept you exactly the way you are, even when you make mistakes, even when you don't live up to the expectations. So this process is not only physically healing, but is also emotionally healing.
Yeah.
And you also develop great self-awareness, because you are going to go and find out where exactly those problems arise. Because when you're asking the questions to the parts, they come up and they say what exactly happened. So I did not go into those details, but when you actually do the process, you will discover that. So it is like a all-in-one approach where you are getting emotional healing, where you are getting to create self-awareness, you are getting to create physical healing, and it is very nurturing for the body. You are allowing yourself to be. It is like an indirect way of shadow work, where you're just allowing yourself to be exactly who you are, despite the things that your other parts doesn't like about the other parts.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a lifelong process. Would you say that, Moumita? It is a journey.
Absolutely.
It
It
is a
is a
journey
journey. It
because
is a
those parts
journey.
of us are growing. So they're growing and they let go of certain limiting beliefs and we love ourselves a little bit more. And then we get to another level where we come across another set of beliefs, another set of limiting beliefs.
So it's like
We're also,
layers.
yes. Yeah. And it is about keep going, to not give up. Because we say to, I thought I dealt with that, last year. I thought I was, what's going on? I thought this was all done. And,
Yeah,
I go through that where I say to myself, I thought I dealt with this, because I have a son who's got special needs and he's definitely somebody who keeps me on my toes. And I have come to realize that the reality that I'm having with him only gets better the more I love myself. Because that reflection is reflecting what's in me, what's in my heart. And that self love cannot be a mind thing. It's got to come from the heart and the gut
exactly.
and
Yes.
the gut.
It has to
So,
be felt in the body.
yes. And there is something about how we come to give ourselves grace, how we come to allow the grace to carry on this journey because it is endless, endless. And it's about how we allow the higher self to really drive all those different parts with grace, with love, in flow, with ease. And I have come to love this journey. I think you have come to love it too. It comes to a point where we find ourselves in a timeline where we are feeling much more at ease with all those different parts. We have done the work, we've done the EFT, we've done the sound therapy, we've done the healing, and we find ourselves in a much, much more mature place where the different parts of us have grown and have filled up. It's almost like a soothing. They're filled up with much more love. The journey is still ongoing, and we are not criticizing ourselves as much. We are able to show ourselves grace much more. And there is just a balancing of the masculine and feminine energies that we need to do. We're surrendered in feminine energy and we're taking action in masculine energy. And we're allowing ourselves on a day to day to walk as empowered beings. And this is the part I wanted you to talk about a little bit more. This is how we are getting the messages because we begin to walk more as the spiritual beings that we are. And we're getting messages either vocally, we are able to hear it, we're able to see someone tell it to us, we're able to draw. As we draw, we get the messages because that is what life is about. Walking as the spirit beings that we are, being guided by the higher self in different ways. Because that self-love is growing. It's growing, and it's something that allows us to let the ego self be. The ego self surrenders to the higher self. That ego self surrenders to the higher self when it is feeling love. It's like a child. A child who is feeling loved will do whatever you tell it to do. You
And
know.
also
So
understanding what exactly you're trying to do. So when you partner with your ego, when you make ego your friend and you love it, you try to understand it, you accept it for who it is instead of
yes,
criticizing or arguing with it or finding flaws in it.
yeah,
That is when the communication from the higher self becomes extremely easy, because here your ego will actually help you to evolve spiritually. It will stop coming in your way and instead create the way for you.
yeah.
Like, oh, you want this? I will do whatever I can to help you with this.
That is so true. Because the ego self is what we need to really walk this physical plane. This physical earth plane requires that ego identity and all the narratives. So this is something that we come to accept. But the ego has to surrender, especially um, if we want to allow that spirit self to receive even more messages from all the multidimensional guides around us. And I know that you channel Mary Magdalene amongst other beings. I also channel the Dorians who are kind of, the sixth dimensional and the 10th dimensional Aldorians from the planet Aldor who have come here to help us create a new earth. So that only came about for me when I allowed my own self, my own physical ego self, to feel loved enough to surrender. So I wanted you to talk to us about how that came about for you, because there are lots of people who really want to channel so many different beings, but that physical ego self needs to feel more love, needs to surrender. And that is a process. I know it's taken me many years to get to this, but to this place, and it is still a journey. But how did this come about for you where you are? You've talked about how the ego self came to a place of surrender through self healing and through love. And what has happened since then? And how did you come to really, how are you now enjoying this place where the ego self is feeling surrendered and allowing your spirit being to come in its fullness in this
So that has been like one roller coaster ride. So I was not into spirituality, as you know. It's been only 1.5 years. So I was like a regular corporate person. I was in technology. I did my engineering. I did my MBA, and I was working in a company. During that time, I went through my dark night of the soul. I burnt out. I went through depression. I got bullied, and I left that job. And I was like, is this what I really want to do in my life? Is this what life is all about? So until that point, I was really enjoying my life. I was doing whatever I can, which my other friends couldn't do, because I was single, and I was like, I'm going to have all kinds of fun. And now that I look back, I realized that I actually did a good thing by not getting married early, because I wanted to have fun. And while I mean, I don't think I would have come to spirituality if I did not have that journey of experiencing whatever life had to offer. So I did whatever I could, like drinking, smoking, whatever. And then I'm like, been there, done that, and this feels empty. Like, I'm feeling depressed. I'm at the pinnacle of my career. I have the best job. I have the best degrees. I have the best everything. And I'm empty inside. Is this how life was meant to be? I took a sabbatical and I was really going deep within. And that I was having my dark night of the soul. And that time, my spiritual awakening happened. It's around 2021. And then I got interested in answers that science was not able to give me. Like, what is my purpose? Why am I even here? What am I doing? I am not enjoying my job. Like, what am I here to do? And that time, one thing led to other. I learned how to read Akashic records, and I got to know I'm a star seed. But I had difficulty accepting those messages because I did not believe that I was receiving messages from my guides. I was like, okay, maybe it's my imagination. I'm just hearing something, even though those were not my voices. I'm a clairaudient. So and then I started hearing those voices. I was like, okay, maybe I've become schizophrenic. I don't know what.
Yeah,
So
me too.
I discovered I'm a star seed. I'm like, that is interesting. What does that mean? So I actually got a psychic reading, and the psychic said the same thing that my spirit guide said in my Akashic record. And that's when it clicked. Okay, this person can no way know what I have heard from my guides. So maybe there is some truth to it, because how does she know? I didn't tell her. And that's, I think, in some time I discovered Bashar, and that changed my life. Like,
Really.
pursuing my highest excitement
Mm,
became my motto. I left my job. I was doing another job after that, like after taking the sabbatical. So I left that job in 2 or 3 months after I started listening to Bashar. I was hooked to it. And then I was like, I'm going to follow my highest excitement. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to leave my job and I'm going to do it. And my friends were like, you have gone mad, you are crazy, or this or that. I actually stopped talking with them because it was so demotivating. For the first time in my life, I felt alone, like totally alone. Like, nobody would understand what I'm going through or what I'm saying. It was like another depression. Like,
mm,
it's as if one was not enough, another one. And then um I think I still didn't think about channeling. I was more about finding myself and trying to figure out what exactly am I here to do. So that's when I started coaching people. I got myself coaches, I got myself therapists to work on myself. And my coaches helped me. I got 3 coaches at that time. I remember I was like completely bonkers. I was like I was going through the darkest night of soul. And they helped me with a lot of things, and the most important ones were releasing my limiting beliefs and some of my traumas.
mm,
So I think that has been a turning point in my life, because only then I was able to let go of my thoughts around jobs. Because even up until that point, I didn't have the full faith in myself that I will be able to do something different from my job, which I was doing for the last 10, 14 years. So that confidence was like completely gone when I left my job, even though I wanted to pursue my excitement, because it's like the cultural trance.
mm.
So thanks to my coaches and the limiting belief work that I learned from them and I did with them. And after that, that is when, like, my purpose was already given to me. I remember taking a session of one channeler where when I asked my purpose, he's like, you would be into channeling, energy healing. And I'm like, channeling? I'm not that interested in channeling. I love listening to other channelers, but I'm not interested in all that. So I couldn't fully believe what he said. I was like, yeah, whatever. And I was mostly working on myself. And after 2, 3 months of that, I don't know what happened. I think it's because of the beliefs that I was releasing. I just suddenly took a casual curiosity in channeling. And like, there are so many questions I have about metaphysics, and I love explaining those things, as you might have seen, explaining what parallel realities are and things like that. So that is when I was drawn to it, and I learned it. Like, I took a course of another channeler and a teacher, and I was able to channel in the first try. So I still didn't believe it. And I actually was like, okay, I don't know whether I'm actually channeling or is it just me talking or what is going on. Like, I was not really sure about that. Then I think I channeled for a few of my family members and who said that this is not you. You don't talk like this. You don't think like this. So that is when my confidence grew a little bit. And the Acturians, at that time, I was channeling the Acturians. They are like, go channel for others. I was like, I don't have the guts to do it for others. Just like, just do it. Just do it for free. Just do it. I was like, okay, fine. So I remember posting in the Bashar group, and there were like 30 people who I channeled after that. And that helped me develop my confidence because I realized that the information that was coming through is real because the person sitting in front of me is validating it. So there is no way for me to know the information that I'm transmitting about them, and they are saying, "Yeah, yeah, how did you know?" That kind of a thing. So, and when it comes to channeling different beings, so I'll answer two of your questions. The reason I took a long route to explain this journey is to give you an idea where I am coming from, so that it also gives hope to your audience who are also aspiring channelers that every channeler's path is different and it need not be linear. I mean, it can be different for different people. So for me, what has worked is working on my limiting beliefs allowed me to channel very easily and very quickly. Or it could be also because it's also part of my life purpose. For many people, channeling is like additional thing in their what's the right word? It's like of all the things that they could do and their main purpose, channeling is like an assisting thing. So for them, if it is not their main thing, then they may experience some difficulties initially, but that doesn't mean they should give up. So what I have noticed is when you don't have any expectation as to what you will channel, who you will channel, that is when whoever needs to connect with you is going to come through. So I never knew who's going to come through anytime ever. It's just whoever wanted to come through would just come through. Like it would be Archangel Michael who came after 4 months after I first started channeling. I didn't channel in the beginning. Mary Magdalene came in last year, October. Yeshua came in last year, December. I never had any idea that I would be channeling them. It's like I will be sitting one day and my intention is always to be neutral. Like whoever needs to come through will come through. And I do a good job of keeping my vibration high. So I know that I'm not going to attract negative entities. Also, in my channeling classes, I teach to others how to raise your vibration just before channeling so that you don't end up being a match to a dark entity. And even if you're attracting a new entity, it's a benevolent one. So that is how I end up channeling different beings. So with my students, the resistance that you were talking about, that many people have this resistance towards channeling, the ego comes into the picture. I have seen some of my students go through that. And for that, to me, that was very alien because for me, when I channeled, I don't know why I always felt like this is going to happen. The thought that it may not happen with me has never entered my brain. I don't know why. So it could be because it's part of my life purpose, or it could be because the limiting belief work that I did earlier. I don't know what is the real reason. So whenever I have seen my students go through it, luckily because I'm a coach, I work on their resistance first. Say one student would be more perfectionist, so they are more afraid of failure. And that fear of failure creates a block. So even if the being is trying to communicate, they would have problem listening to that information. So those kinds of blocks, plus some of my other students have fear of letting go of control. Like they are afraid, their protector parts are afraid to let go of control because like I don't know what being is going to come and possess my body and whatnot. So there are certain things that, like, there are certain belief system channeling is compatible with. And if somebody has a belief system that, okay, I don't know who's going to come through and they are going to take possession of me, unless you work on those beliefs, it's going to be very hard because that fear of possession is going to block the communication. So every person's way of channeling is different. Every person's fear and blocks are different. That's why when it comes to vocal channeling, when I'm teaching my students, I never do it in a group session, because whenever I've seen people do it in group sessions, they will have individual fears where I can't give individual attention. And some of them will fail the first time, and that will create a block for them forever. They're like, okay, I'm a failure and this will never happen. And then overcoming that block is super difficult. So that's why I prefer doing one-on-one sessions where I know exactly where the block is and I address the block first before I teach them how to channel. Because channeling is very easy. It is very easy. Like, it is as easy as breathing or eating food. The problem are those blocks. So I focus on those first. And every person's path of channeling is also different. Some people receive information as a knowing and the words flow out from the knowing. Whereas for some people, it is like there is complete blankness and just the words are coming out of the mouth. So every channel's experience of channeling is different. It's never same with two channels. And I have seen when I'm doing one-on-one channeling teaching, like my students will have different kinds of experience. The way they get initiated into the channeling is also different. Some people, their spirit guides will come through and they'll be like, okay, connect with the body and see where do you feel the sensation in the body and spread it across the body. For some, it will be like, okay, imagine the being is entering through you and through the crown. For some people, it would be like physical exercise, like beating the heart. I don't know. I don't even understand. I enter the channeling state and I allow their spirit guides to guide them in their unique way. So the point here is to appreciate your uniqueness and in which way the information transmits to you and accepting it instead of comparing notes. And to also be aware of the blocks that could come up. So the secret is to work on the blocks, to work on the self, because it is useful in every aspect of life, not just channeling. Whatever is blocking you in channeling is also what's going to block you in other aspects of life. So when you work through the block here, the other blocks also open up. So it's like a all-in-one solution.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm hearing the word allowing, allowing, because this is so key. Allowing is so key. And I love what you said. Thanks for sharing that story about leaving your work and having the fears of not going back, and but still honoring your feelings and going into that dark night of the soul and following your excitement. Following your excitement. Because I think that is the first thing. We are getting called from within. There's something that leads us from within. That excitement, I've come to understand, is the language of the higher self. Our spirit being communicates to us through that excitement. And when we follow it, and as Bashar will say, we're following that excitement and we're really doing it to the best of our ability with no expectations as to what the outcome is. And we're just following it, and we're not judging it. We're allowing ourselves to see the opportunities that come up around us. And one of the opportunities that will come up as we follow our excitement is the healing, embodying self-love in the mind, in the heart, in the gut, going beyond that survival tendencies, and then coming to a place where we are feeling much more relaxed. We're able to allow that higher self to receive, and because the higher self has to be in a place where there has to be that understanding with the physical ego self. There has to be that coherence with the physical ego self. And the higher self is not wanting nothing, seeking nothing. And it's really the ego self that has to come up to the higher self. And the higher self is loving and soothing. And the ego self has to just allow that to happen. The higher self is always there, but it's neutral. It's neutral, and we're allowing ourselves to be soothed. We're allowing ourselves to be loved. We're allowing ourselves to be soothing. And the ego self has to just allow that. Allow that to happen. The higher self is always there, but it's neutral. It's neutral, and we're allowing ourselves to be soothed. allowing ourselves as physical legal beings to be loved. And you're right. I love what you said about there are different ways in which the higher self will communicate to the physical legal self. And we have got to come to a place where we accept whatever is. Because we are consciousness, but we are unique pieces of infinite intelligence. Each of us is so unique. Um, and how you will receive information from the higher self is different from how I will receive it. And how I received it yesterday it will be different from how I will receive it today. So it is also changing because different timelines. I am jumping timelines all the time.
Absolutely.
So are you. And we are accepting whoever we find ourselves to be in the next moment. That allowing is so key. Allowing and surrender, which is the feminine energy, the divine feminine energy, but also the taking action as the masculine divine energy. And it's the harmony. Finding that harmony between the two, with the two, is so key. I would love to hear more, Moumita, about your work because I know you are a teacher. You're also a coach. Could you tell us a bit more about your portfolio of services?
Yeah, so given what I have, what my journey has been, I feel that helping others who are in the same boat where they hate their job, they want to leave their job, but they are not able to do that because of the fears that I don't know what the future lies ahead. Will this even make money? Will I be even, be able to pay my bills? Those kinds of tension that most people have, especially when their soul's calling is very unique and different. Say, for example, an animal communicator or a plant communicator or a water bender. These kinds of people are rare to find. And for these people, having a guide or a coach is crucial because it's not just about a career transition. It is into a career transition to completely unknown charters where there is like nobody who is leading in the same line of business. Like you will find other coaches doing coaching business and you can learn from those coaches. But if you are a water bender or a fire bender, like are there many fire benders out there? Are there many water benders out there that you can use as a role model or go for coaching or consultation? You can't, right? So my primary offering is to help those people who want to start their spiritual business and have some idea about what they want to do or what they are drawn to doing, to do that transition, to help them release their limiting beliefs and as well as help them find their purpose and own their gifts instead of being fearful of that, and then have a way to actually support themselves. The key is to allow them to believe in themselves, that their highest excitement can actually support them. Because every person, when they are being their core frequency, they will attract abundance. The secret to abundance is just being the core frequency, which is the frequency of highest excitement. Because when you are excited, you are doing exactly what you're meant to do in this lifetime. You're being your true, authentic self.
Yeah.
And that is what allows you to be abundant. I mean, just look at the Instagram. There are people who make money by just posting cat videos. I mean, who would have thought that you can make money by posting cat videos? So people downplay their skills, their talents, thinking, I don't know if this is going to make money. Should I leave my stable job? And they're miserable in that. So my primary offering is to coach such people who want to make that transition, especially in the spiritual line, because that is where it's hard to find a proper guide or a coach who can guide them and to help them become their core frequency.
Mm.
So that is the key.
Mm.
And it is very difficult for a person who is driven by fears to totally understand that. So there needs to be some kind of spiritual development or understanding in that person to understand that this is the way. So it becomes also a value fit. So my coaching is not just for everybody. My coaching is whoever values and spiritual beliefs aligns with mine. They will be
Long
naturally
term?
drawn.
Is it long term or do you do it over 2 months or 3 months?
So
How
I
does
do
it
it over, so my starter package is for 3 months because those are the crucial time
work?
and they can extend if they want to. So that is my primary offering. And apart from that, I also do vocal channeling. So I create videos. I used to do group events, but I'm focusing more on solo channelings now. So I love transmitting different metaphysical information. And usually the beings are the ones who choose that their topic based on the collective vibration. So they are the ones who will come and say, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and I'm like, "Okay." So I also have these channeling videos for those who want to develop spiritually and have inclination towards that. And plus, I also offer one on one channeling sessions, private channeling sessions for those who need guidance. And with the self healing, this is something I'm talking about the first time with you publicly. I haven't declared it anywhere. So I would be launching my self healing services also, but I haven't planned which one in which way, like a book or a course or a one on one. So I would highly recommend that if your audience is interested, they can sign up for my newsletter or follow me on my YouTube so that they know when they can get access to that if they are interested in self healing.
Oh, that's wonderful. And where can people find you, Moumita, when they want to connect with you?
Yeah, so my website is betterliving.co, www.abetterliving.co. And my YouTube handle is also the same. I'm not very active on Instagram or Facebook, though I do have a very active Facebook community, and I would love to have people there, anybody who wants to um, experience this like-minded engagement with my community members. So you can search me by A Better Living on YouTube, a.better.living, same handle on Instagram, and the website is abetterliving.co.
What is your group's name on Facebook?
It's channeling by Moumita.
Channeling by Moumita. Yeah, and that's Moumita.
Yes.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me today, Moumita.
Thank you so much, Bola, for this lovely conversation.
Yes, and I would love to thank my audience for joining me today on this episode of Daily Soul Bytes Show. And I want to ask you to subscribe to this channel, to share our videos, and to grab your copy of my bestseller book, Daily Soul Bytes, which is now available anywhere books are sold online. And remember to leave a review. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Daily Soul Bytes Show. Bye bye.
Bye.